So he currently has $14.96 billion of Bitcoin in MicroStrategy, and it's up 97% all time. So he's put in 7.3 billion, and now it's sitting on about 15 billion of assets. Now, I think there's one other piece to be honest about, which is it wasn't just that he was like, we have 500 million on the balance sheet. What can we invest in? I think the truth was, and this is what we were trying in our original interview with him, this is what kind of started to come out. And I was like, this makes more sense to me. And I kind of wish he was a little bit more upfront about it, which was his stock was flat or going down for a long time. Like, I think if you look at the MicroStrategy chart for like since, I don't know, 2002 to, 2020, the stock was basically flat from 2007 to 2020 before he started making his bet. And that's a long time, right? That's 2007 to 2020. That's a 13-year period. And so what he realized was, he's like, why are they not giving us any credit? Like, we're basically valued at the amount of cash we have. They're not valuing the business really at anything. And the business is going to produce more cash, but they don't believe that we can invest this well, or that we can reinvest our cash well to grow the enterprise value of the company. So we have two choices. We either dividend out all the cash, or we got to do something with it that's going to get our stock price to go up. And I think the reality was he was stuck between a little bit of a rock and a hard place, where he had this business that was too successful to not continue, but his share price would not move because investors just simply did not believe any of the stories about what they could do with the cash. And so he kind of had to do something. I think that's the part that's a little bit left out, is like,
oh, I completely agree.
And he was very loud about it on purpose, which I don't blame him for being.
I also think that like maybe an extension of this is, whenever you have a company that has cash on their balance sheet and it's like accumulating cash, it's usually because they don't know what to do with it. Like, there's not a clear, how do I reinvest in my business and like drive more cash in the future? And so historically, what those companies have done is they've either dividended out or they've bought back their shares. But if your shares are flat and there's not a lot of volatility to it, there's not a lot of opportunity to buy back the shares for less than what like the company's worth. And so this is definitely, like, that's why I say it's like a bet the company, burn the boats situation, where he went all in on this strategy. Now, what I think is very interesting about it is he essentially has pioneered this, like, I have a business that does software analytics and kind of business analytics, and that's supposed to throw off cash. And then I have like a treasury strategy. But if you really think about, maybe companies in other countries, like, this is not foreign to them, right? If you're in a country where like the currency is very volatile or it could lose value very quickly, a lot of times you're managing foreign currency risk and you're trying to get into dollars or something that's more stable. It's just that no one in the US ever thinks about this or worries about it. And so now he's doing it with Bitcoin. Now, I actually think one of the most interesting parts of this story is that no one's followed him. Like, there hasn't been a second MicroStrategy. I've talked to a lot of people and I'm like, one company is a data point, two would begin the trend. And so I actually don't have a good answer as to, like, if this guy has made basically $7 billion off of this bet, why has no one followed? Usually in public markets, like, somebody does something, back like 2017, 2018, like, companies were start changing their names to blockchain. Long Island Iced Tea changed it to like Long Island Blockchain, right? And they just start doing anything they possibly can. Right now, AI, like, everyone goes and puts .ai at the end of their name to try to, get some sort of boost in their stock price. But no one's following Saylor, which, like, the omission of everyone else may actually be a data point that we should pay attention to as well.
Well, it's a very scary bet. I mean, in order to do this, I don't know if you have to be a public company, but you have to be large enough to be in that ballpark. And I don't know how much he must own the majority of the company, because there's been so many times where, like, it could have been justifiable to fire him over all this.
I think, right? He has voting control, but not majority ownership, but he's got voting control.
He has about 50% ownership of the stock. And so you have the unique combination of cash cow business, been around forever, founder, CEO, publicly listed already. So he's able to do these bonds, because when you listen to him talk, he's like, so I can borrow $900 million at like 0.1% interest and put it into Bitcoin, which averages 100% annual appreciation for the last 10 years. Okay. Why not?
Yes, but there's another detail to it, and I'm definitely not an expert on like convertible bond offerings in the public market, but these are convertible bonds and they convert at a premium to the current price. So without getting into all the intricacies, is basically like people can get paid back, or they could convert to equity at maybe, let's say, 50% higher. So if the company's worth, $10 billion today, it'll convert at 15 billion. So if the company goes up a lot, like, you'll obviously convert rather than get paid back. And so it's not exactly the cheapest capital. If you're basically selling equity, but you are selling it at a 50% premium. So it's still attractive to do.
And so when you look at this, are you like, wow, this is genius, this is terrible, this is riskier than it appears? What's the Pomp takeaway? Because you've talked to this guy multiple times, right? We did an interview with him years ago and haven't really paid too much attention since. You live in this space, day to day, and you know this guy a lot better than us. What's your honest takeaway of this?
I think it is riskier for a company to sit with $500 million in US dollar cash on their balance sheet than $500 million worth of Bitcoin. And the reason being that, or maybe the one clarifier is, if you have a long-term oriented posture and you don't need that cash for day-to-day operations right now, Bitcoin will definitely do better from protecting your purchasing power over the next 10, 15, 20 years than the dollars will. And so it's a unique aspect to be able to not only have the cash, but also not need it to run your business. And so, I think that he's actually taking less risk than most of the public companies.